If you're feeling a bit trapped, unfulfilled, or stuck by your business, what we're going to go through today is how you can actually use that to your benefit and the essential mindset tip to enable that to become a reality. So it's super common for business owners to get to a point in business where they just feel stuck. They don't feel motivated anymore. They've lost their mojo. And I remember experiencing this in my first business. And the challenge is that if we don't learn how to navigate this space, this area, this section, as if you want to call it, this road hump, if we don't figure out how to navigate that, we're always going to end up feeling stressed because we can't enjoy the business because we get to this point where we feel stuck and can't get past it, but we don't want to get a job because we're entrepreneurial and jobs just don't do it for us. So the only solution is for us to figure out how to actually get past that point. And interestingly, I learned this mindset insight from a monk whilst I was living in a monastery. So after I left the military, I went traveling for a few years and lived on monasteries in Thailand and Nepal, and actually learned a lot of the skills from those experiences and insights from those experiences that have helped me start two businesses, relatively successful. They're not Apples, they're not Googles, but they're not bad either, and both self-funded. And I just wouldn't have got there if I didn't have these mindset tips. And I'm still on a journey now, but it's using these mindset tips enabling me to stay on the journey, not get knocked off the wagon and just go back to doing something that doesn't fulfill me. So one of the mindset tips, which I think is vital for understanding and helping us navigate this stage we get to in business, is recognizing that pain isn't bad. And the example this monk gave me was that an example of leprosy sufferers. So when people have leprosy, I think it kills the nerve endings, but it basically stops you from feeling pain. And what happens is, it's terrible to see, but you'll see people that have got leprosy and their legs maybe are infected and rotting away and maybe being eaten by insects or animals. And the people are sat there and they just don't even care. They're not even bothered. It's just they're unaware because they've got no feeling in the joint. So this is what happens when we don't have pain. And most of us tend to think that pain is bad, but pain is actually a good thing, right? And in this example of leprosy, if we don't have the pain, we stop looking after ourselves. We wouldn't avoid bad things if we didn't have pain. We wouldn't adapt course. But if we do have pain, we tend to avoid bad things and we tend to adapt course when things are going wrong. And this is the vital insight that we need to embrace as business owners. And that is that pain isn't bad. It's a warning sign. And it's telling us that something's not going right and we need to adapt course. So in business, typically what this means is you've reached a certain level of business and you've maximized that level and you can't stay there any longer. But we tend to stay there because business is hard. It goes through ups and downs. We go through multiple stages. Every time we get a little bit comfortable and we start to feel like we've got some traction or things are working for us, then we realize we've got to change again and we've got to slog forwards. And this is what the pain is telling us. It's telling us, right, it's time to grow now. It's time to get to the next stage. And if it's a business you used to love, but you now feel unfulfilled in, it's because you're not progressing to that next level. So the pain is there to give you this kind of warning sign that you need to change, you need to adapt, you need to do things differently to get your mojo back in this business. And when you see that is a positive, you see pain as being a warning sign, not a negative, it changes everything, right? Because everybody goes through pain in business, and you can apply the same context to the gym, right? When you go to the gym and you haven't been going to the gym before, or you start exercising and you haven't been exercising for a while, it's going to hurt. You're going to experience pain. And when you have those pains, that's not the body's way of telling you shouldn't be doing this, which is what most people believe, right? So they go and get back into training. The pain kicks in and they say, right, I'm not meant for this. I'm too old. I'm too sore. My body's telling me to stop, so I'm going to stop doing it. That's what most people do. That's the normal mindset that people have in the modern world. And that mindset isn't going to serve you well as a business owner, and it's not going to serve you well for life, right? Because if you think about back to that fitness example there, the people that do just quit don't get anywhere. They end up more unhealthy and more in pain because their joint seize up. Now, the people that don't listen to that and just keep training super hard, the people that train super hard at the start of their journey, they're potentially going to get injured, right? And that is going to lead to not being able to train long term. But the people that look at the pain and don't see it as a negative, but see it as a warning sign, can adapt their course. They can slow down the training a bit until the pain's recovered. They can adapt their diet. They can get back on the game. So it's obvious to you and I listening to that the person that reframes the pain and uses it as a guidance, not as a negative, is the person that progresses. And whilst that's very simple and clear to understand in the fitness and context and health context. Perhaps sometimes we miss it in business. So many of the business owners that I work with are stuck. They're stuck at a level. They're feeling unfulfilled. They've lost their passion. They care about their people, but they're just no longer excited and motivated by the business. And 9 times out of 10, the reason for this is that they have maximized the level that they're at with the business, and they're resisting moving forwards, or they're not sure of how to move forwards, so they just stay stuck. So the levels of business actually, I think, break down into 4 simple stages, and we're going to cover a whole podcast episode on this in the next episode, or after in the next few episodes. And the 4 levels, to me, the 4 S's, are relatively straightforward. So you can have a think about this now, and we'll return to this for more of a deeper dive. But the 4 levels are startup, and that's pretty self-explanatory. That's when you start the business. It's all about ideas, it's excitement, it's getting some traction in the market, building a team, creating a new thing. That can typically last 1 to 2 years. Everybody's working normally too hard, but you're driven by excitement and motivation for the new thing. Then you progress out of that stage and you go to the slog phase. And slog's not particularly exciting, but this is where you've got some traction and you just keep grinding forward. You try and repeat, rinse and repeat. You figure out what's working really well, and you tend to attract a team and start getting more consistent sales. This is where most business owners get stuck, in my opinion. They get to the slog phase, and another key defining indicator of the slog phase is the business is very reliant on the owner. Okay, so even if you've got a great business and it's performing well, if it's still reliant on you being there, you are in the slog phase. And this is where I see most business owners getting stuck and uncomfortable. I did it myself, and the business owners that I work with now, I can normally, within a space of 30 minutes, tell that this is where they are, if it's where they are, and they normally are. So if it's reliant on you, you're still in the slog phase. That's the nature of the business, right? If you are still having to be there to keep it alive and keep it floating and to keep it moving forwards, and the team are all reliant on you, you're in the slog phase. And if it's nice to be here, right? It's nice to be here for a certain period of time, maybe even a few years, because you're figuring it out, you're building a team, it's exciting, you're on the ground, you're meeting your clients, you're making a difference, getting a name for yourself. So it's exciting to be here. So you can be in this slog phase for over 5 years potentially. But once you start to feel tired and fed up and no longer motivated, that's your mind not saying to you, this business is wrong. That's not the pain telling you it's a bad thing. It's saying, right, we've got to adapt course now. We've got to move into the next stage for this business to carry on working for you, so that you can step away, reduce your dependency, maybe focus your ideas and efforts somewhere else, whatever it is that you want. So if you listen to that pain, then we realize we have to move to the next level, which is the systems level. Okay. And that's where we start doing the stuff that a lot of business owners aren't very excited about, which is systemizing and turning things into processes. I love this stuff. This is where I come to life. But a lot of business owners don't like this, right? Especially the ones that do well in startup and slog phase. We like the ideas, we like getting the new thing going, we like creating momentum, but standing in an office and creating systems, and we just don't like it, or we don't know how to do it, so we just avoid it. So that's the next phase. That's the phase you have to go to. What happens if you don't go to that phase? It's a bit like, again, going to the gym and just basically saying, right, I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing, even though it's really killing me, and trying to go with the same approach, which eventually leads to you getting injured, which in the business context means you just get fed up and you close the business, which is the worst thing that can happen, really, for everybody, for your customers, for you, for your team. Or you just carry on running the business, but you're not happy. It's not making you happy. And that's, again, going to lead to you eventually closing the business or just being a bit resentful of it. So you've got to progress to the next level. If you're feeling pain, it's not because you're doing anything wrong. If you've lost your motivation in the gym, if you lost your motivation in your business, or you're feeling a bit unfulfilled, it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's not because the business is broken. It's just because you need to get to the next level, which is normally systems. And after the systems level comes scale or sell, which kind of I like to categorize into the same one. But we'll cover those stages in more of a deep dive in the next podcast episode. But key takeaway from this episode, better happy business owners, is pain isn't a bad thing. So when you're feeling pain, don't say, oh man, this is wrong, I need to fix it. Something's broken. See it as a guiding force. It's telling you, right, something's not currently working the way you're doing it. What have you got to do to make progress and to move forwards? And if the pain persists, you're probably being stubborn, or you probably need to ask for some help to find out what you need to do to get to that next level. But pain isn't bad. Pain is good. It's a guiding force. It's an early warning system to help us get on track to where we want to be. And if you're not unhappy and you're not feeling unfulfilled, stay exactly where you are. There's nothing wrong with staying in the slog phase if that's what you love. you've got to listen to your soul and to your subconscious, and it's that creates the pain. So for me, for example, with the first business, I was in slog phase for 4 years, deep in the slog phase, for some other reasons as well, which I'll cover on our podcast. But I stayed there for 4 years, and I eventually just got totally burnt out. And I really should have been stepping up to systems, but for a lack of confidence, potentially, I stayed in that slog phase and just eventually got so burnt out and fed up that I decided to close the business and move on to Better Happy, which is great because it's enabled me to focus down on what I love, but it didn't need to be as painful and uncomfortable and draining as it was for so long if I'd have listened to the pain and made context of it and used it to my benefit, not just stayed there and suffered. I hope that's been helpful. Business should work for you, should work for your teams, should work for your customers, and should work for the business as well. 9 times out of 10, most of the issues that we create for ourselves in a business is we don't concentrate on ourselves. We're taught that thinking about ourselves is selfish, and that if we just focus on everybody else all the time, things will come good. But that's not how it works. For you to be the best person you can be, the best parent you can be, the best business owner you can be, you've got to look after yourself, and you've got to think about how's this business going to work for you, and you've got to go out of your way to make it work for you. And when you do that, it becomes a better, happy business, a business that works for you, makes you feel like the best version of yourself, which then means it works for your customers, which means it works for your clients, works for the business long term. Everybody's a winner. My mission in life really is to make business owners be more sensibly selfish. And today we're going to start by doing that, by focus on reframing our pain to not be a bad thing, but to use it as a guiding force. I hope that's been helpful. I'm going to stop waffling on. Have a great day and go and smash your business.
Wanna hear you go.